my name's Sunetra Sarker, and I have been an ambassador for Sightsavers for well over 10 years now. And I stumbled upon this charity by accident. It was because I'd always had a fascination with my eyesight. Growing up as a child, I went to school near a blind school, and my mum named me Sunetra, which actually means the eyes that see good things. So I felt quite compelled to help this charity that was doing so much amazing work outside of the UK. And I was fortunate enough to go and visit India twice now and see some of the amazing work that Sightsavers is doing overseas. What I don't know that much about, though, is how Sightsavers is working in Africa. And so today I'm really lucky that I'm getting a chance to speak to the wonderful Agatha Aboe, who is heading up the Sightsavers in Ghana and has lots to tell us about a really, an unknown side of illness and infection called trachoma that not many people at home may know about. So Agatha, welcome, hello, and tell me all about what you're doing.
Thank you so much, Sunetra. I feel very excited to talk with you today about trachoma because it's something that I'm really very, very passionate about. I've been working in trachoma for almost 20 years now. So a great bit of my career has been doing trachoma work. My background is actually, I am a medical doctor and I specialize in ophthalmology. So I'm still within my field. I also have a background in public health. So I'm just doing what I love to do. And working in Sightsavers has really been very, very exciting, very challenging. I have a personal desire to see trachoma out of our continent, that nobody should go blind from trachoma because this is a disease that can be prevented and can be treated.
So can you tell me, so for people at home who won't really know what trachoma is, because it doesn't explain in its name what it is. It's specifically just for the eye, is that correct? It's just an eye illness?
Okay, so for what we're working on, it's an eye illness. So it is caused by bacteria. It's usually have a lot of the infection in children, and then they transmit the infection one to another. You also have flies transmitting the disease from one child to the other as they feed on the discharge on the child's eye. So typically, if you see a child who has trachoma, the child would have watery eyes, the child will have red eyes. The eyes could be really very, very angry, like red, watery, a lot of discharge, and they find it very difficult coming out to play because they get pain. What in medical terms we may call it photophobia. So they get pain when they go out into the sun to play. So most of them will rather stay indoors. When somebody gets repeated infections with time, the eyelashes, which are usually turned outwards, turn inwards due to scarring. And then the lashes then rub on the cornea. The cornea is that glassy part. It appears black to us or blue, depending on the color of the iris, but it's actually supposed to be transparent. And when it rubs, the eyelashes rub on the cornea, it leads to ulcers on the cornea. When they heal, they produce a scar. The scar is usually white and opaque, so the person is not able to see through because light cannot penetrate through the eye into the back of the eye to help you interpret and then see what is up. So that's how trachoma causes blindness.
So this whole process that you've just described, how long would that take from the very first, from the fly infecting, say, for example, a child's eye? What's the time scale we're talking to by the time they're losing their sight?
So it varies and it depends on the severity of the infection in the community. So there are times when we have seen children as young as 8, 9 years going blind from trachoma in certain settings in Africa. And then there are times when, a lot of times, the blindness occurs in adulthood. So when people are actually in their 30s, 40s, going upwards because they've had a lot of infection. And just to add that women tend to get blind from trachoma more often than men because, as I mentioned earlier, Women are the carers of children, and children are the reservoir of the infection. So women tend to get the infection more and more. And the more you get the infection and it's recurrent, the more you're likely to go blind from it.
So people are just living with that pain and accepting that as normal in countries like Ghana. You're saying that it's not something that immediately people will realize what's happening. They'll just bear with this pain and let the trachoma continue until it eventually does make them lose their sight.
Unfortunately, yes, for a lot of people until we started our program, because most of them thought that either it was a curse on their families because maybe the great grandmother had it, the grandmother had it, the mother had it, and now the daughter also has it. And they think that it's something that is just running through their family. And because of that, they accept it as that.
So that's a huge community that you've talked about. Like, and so how will Sightsavers, or how does Sightsavers help those areas that have got high levels of trachoma in the community?
So we do a whole host of things, and we have an acronym for it called SAFE, SAFE. So we provide surgery to those whose eyelashes have turned inwards and rubbing on their eye and giving them all that pain, which and then there's sore on their eyes that finally leads to blindness. So we provide them with a sight-saving surgery that can turn the eyelid margin back this way, and then the eyelashes will now look outwards instead of inwards. That saves them the pain, and it prevents them from getting blind from it if they are not already blind. But those who are already blind, then it saves them from the pain, because the pain is really excruciating. And then we also support communities with provision of antibiotics. Pfizer provides the antibiotic Citromax. The generic name is azithromycin, to all endemic countries as part of their humanitarian activities. So Sightsavers distributes these drugs to all endemic districts, making sure that no one is left behind, and we treat everybody in the community that is eligible for the treatment. And then the F is the facial cleanliness. As I mentioned earlier on, the children that have the disease would usually have watery eyes, a lot of discharge, and their faces are usually very dirty with the discharge. Their nose is nostrils are just coming
I can't
with a
imagine
lot
the
of
pain. I mean,
it
imagine
is.
the pain, even when we get something in our eye, normally, like whether it's a piece of dust or grit or a stone or anything, it causes such an irritation. And I can't imagine when you're talking about eyelashes being turned in. I don't think, it sounds so bizarre to be able to live with that level of uncomfortableness and pain. It seems like this is something that really is a very urgent situation, especially for children to be just surviving like that. That's not normal and it's not right. It's great that Sightsavers is actually addressing this issue. Have you found with this last year with the pandemic, has it become a lot harder to try and treat people?
Yes, to a large extent, the pandemic has really affected a lot of activities all over the world across all sectors, and the health sector has not been left out of the setbacks and all that. But then Sightsavers also decided to take the opportunity to do as much as we can, irrespective of all that is going on with the pandemic. We were fortunate to have one of our donors agreeing with us to use some of our funding to help support countries through the COVID health education. Okay, so behavioral change activities, because we seem to have the technical know-how, and then we have the platforms and things. So we came in strongly to help support countries to be able to do the necessary messaging, using the right media, the right channels to get these messages across to people all over in some of the countries in which we work. So that really worked very well.
That's great. So has the program work started up again now that we've managed to address the COVID situation? Has Sightsavers program actually got kicked back in? Is Ghana working differently now because of it? But is it up and running again?
Okay, so I'd like to talk about other countries as well, because for us in Ghana, we have eliminated trachoma as a blinding disease. So Sightsavers work is with a whole lot of other countries as well. So yes, we make sure that as we go into the field to work, it is safe for everybody. So we provided both our staff and our partners that we work with face mask,
Yeah.
with shields, face shields.
You managed to address the issue really seriously,
yes.
so that you could continue actually helping, right, treating.
Exactly. So we started doing mass drug administrations in areas that need mass drug administrations. We've also started TT surgeries to provide the site-saving surgery to people that need it. And this has been very, very crucial. If we were to wait too long, then some of the drugs that we already had in country were going to get expired. And that would really, really be very, very sad, because they cost a whole host of money, to provide these drugs.
Race against the expiry date of the drugs, like you say. And what about the people who live far away, like out of reach of the immediate community? How do you get to them?
So Sightsavers has a policy: we don't want to leave anybody behind. We want to make sure that everybody who needs to be treated gets treated. So whatever we need to do to get to them. So what we do is that some of those people are in very hard to reach areas, and sometimes our vehicles cannot move into those areas. Where we can go on motorcycles, we go on motorcycles. Where we can go on bicycles, we go on bicycles. There are times when we really need to walk very long distances to reach utmost parts of areas to ensure that we treat people. I've found myself sometimes sitting on canoes or in a boat, going across water bodies, sometimes very, very, very wide water bodies, just to get over to the other side to ensure that people get their medication. I must say that some of them are challenging, some of the terrain is difficult, but it is still heartwarming when you finally get there and you treat the people, and later when you go back and you see that they are free of this blinding disease. That alone is so satisfying.
I bet they can't believe you've turned up. I mean, what is the reception like when you turn up to these places, like you say, in really hard to reach areas? Do you feel they're like, are they open-armed, happy, or are they quite suspicious of what's going on?
Honestly, because of the kind of community entry that we do, so you don't just bump into them. We make sure that they are where we are coming, and then because of the radio jingles and songs and some of the short piece dramas that we do and are played on FM radios for some of these areas that are able to access these, they tend to know about us before we go. When we go in our t-shirts, and then sometimes we start singing some of the songs that they are familiar with because they've heard them on the FM. In Ghana, I remember we could sing Trachoma, 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 Nibindoro, which means Trachoma, let's drive Trachoma away. So as soon as you enter the community and you start singing the song, they just join you singing, and you see the children all coming around, and it's really a joy, So I must say that the communities are really, really welcoming, and they really want the support that we're giving them. They are really very happy with both the mass drug administrations and also the TT surgeries, because sometimes you have operated on somebody's eye, the person becomes somebody who gives testimony, like we call it satisfied client testimony, because the person couldn't do some things before and can now do them, and therefore they are very, very happy.
Can you give me an example of one of those testimonies?
Okay, let me give one particular example of this lady in one of our districts in the northern part of Ghana. When we saw her, she couldn't speak, she couldn't talk, and then she had trachoma, and she was going to get blind from trachoma. She was married and had 3 children, and she was very, very sad that blindness, in addition to her other preconditions was really going to make life really, really terrible. So we got in there and provided her with the surgery. And fortunately for her, after the surgery, her eyes did not go blind any longer. And she was free. At least if she couldn't speak and she couldn't hear, now she could still see and cook and take care of her children and her family. And this woman is really very, very happy, because at first it was very difficult for her to engage in economic activities. Now she can engage in economic activities freely, and then cater for herself and for her family. So these are really life transforming
Yeah,
things
totally
that Sightsavers is doing.
totally life transforming. And also for people, I mean, how isolating it must feel to be losing your sight and not knowing that it's going. And like you say, with an example like that woman who's already got pre-existing conditions, it's very hard to look on the bright side of life when things like that are happening, and to find the belief that it can get better. And if Sightsavers are turning up with this life-saving surgery, you know, it's life-saving in the fact that the quality of her life is improved so much by what you're suggesting they can have access to. And just before we go, I just wanted to talk about the Gambia, because it's really exciting that it has actually been eliminated. Trachoma has been eliminated in the Gambia. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how that came
Yes,
about?
I am very, very happy, because although I'm not Gambian, we are all in West Africa, and I provided a lot of support to Gambia, using my experience in Ghana and other countries to ensure that Gambia reaches elimination of blinding trachoma. It's been really exciting, because WHO has come out to announce that Gambia has eliminated trachoma as a blinding disease. And a lot of the work done in Gambia was supported by Sightsavers. We really worked very, very hard. We made sure that everybody who needed to have the drugs were provided with the drugs. We made sure we had all the data that we needed to know exactly who needed treatment and where. And we used that data to ensure that we do all that. We didn't leave any part of the safe strategy. I talked about surgery and antibiotics before, and we made sure that facial cleanliness and environmental improvement activities like provision of water and provision of sanitation, all that we made sure was done for the Gambia. And I'm so happy. Gambia is now free of trachoma, and
Amazing.
it's
I mean, that is
really
a huge,
fantastic.
what a huge accomplishment. And to maintain that also, to be, from what you're saying, it sounds like the communities, and I'm sure all the Gambians are embracing keeping that the case. Everybody wants to keep that elimination at, you know, at status where it is. So do you feel like Sightsavers has spread the word, and the word will continue because people have seen how well it works? Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like people who've seen it works and knows that Sightsavers has come and made a difference there. Do you think they're talking about it and it's traveling up the continent?
Oh, yes. You know, a lot of the work that Sightsavers has done in the Gambia, it's in the newspapers, it's being spread all over. And then in other media, we're using social media and everything to spread the work that we're doing. And that is to tell everybody that the work that we're doing is really impacting lives, and to show that when we set out ourselves to eliminate a disease like trachoma and other neglected tropical diseases, it is possible to do it. And other countries are also learning that if some countries have been able to do it, like Ghana, like Gambia, then they can also do it, provided they provide in all the political will and everybody puts their hands to it. And, you know, organizations like Sightsavers who come in to provide all the technical assistance and, you know, some of the finances that we need to push our messages, to push the drugs to the communities, to provide the surgery. Once all that is happening together, we realize that eliminating trachoma is really something that is possible. For me personally, I believe strongly that in my lifetime, trachoma should be a thing of the past. That when we talk about trachoma, it's like this thing used to threaten our eyesight, but it can no longer threaten our eyesight because we've nailed it right down.
Such an amazing statement, and I really hope you're right, because what's really unusual is, I'm sitting here thousands of miles away from you, and we don't know when we put money in a tin or donate. You don't always really know where is that going and what is it doing. And to speak to you today and hear genuinely what the impact of £10 has done all the way over there, and you're explaining to me that £10 has really made a difference, because it's made it possible for you to go on a canoe and see a woman who's out of an area. It really is, if you can let your imagination understand where that money travels and how much it can do, it really is mind-blowing. And then for you to say to me that you really hope in your lifetime that we can eliminate trachoma completely with these sort of devices, it's amazing. And I think it's great what you're doing over there. Really, it's really nice to hear how successful it's been so far.
Thank you so much, very much, Sunetra. And we are very, very grateful as Sightsavers. We are grateful to every single person who puts in some money to help this cause. It doesn't matter the amount. It may look small to somebody, but it is big in our eyes. And it is really very, very huge for the person out there in the community whose eyes get saved. And we make sure that whatever funds, whatever monies anybody gives us, whether it's £5 or £10 or £20 or £1,000, whatever it is, it's used for that purpose. And you may be far away there, but I want you to know that whatever monies you're giving, it's really making an impact in somebody's life. Not just that the person would see again, not that the person would not go blind, but the person's entire life is transformed. Children can go to school, women can work and make some gains economically to take care of their families. And that helps to break the cycle of poverty and ignorance and disease. And all of us, with every little bit that we can contribute, will really go a long way to help.
You mentioned then, and I saw it firsthand when I went to India, about seeing a woman who couldn't see, the gift of eyesight. I mean, returning somebody's sight to them, it's almost like magic. You don't believe things like that can happen. And then when you see what a woman and her family how their lives change with that sight, you're right. Encouraging women to work. We're all in our newspapers every day, we can hear everybody encouraging women to work. But what happens if they're in situations where they can't work? So we have to try and address the issues that are predispose being able to work, especially in countries where it's difficult sometimes for women to already have the freedom to go out and work. So I think, again, these are areas, you guys are the unsung heroes, really, working on the areas that people don't tend to put a big spotlight on all the time. And I think if Sightsavers is doing what they're doing, you've seen the results, so you know what you need. You've seen the formula that the Gambia has proved to be successful. So would you say another country, for example, Nigeria, what would you say is happening there? Are they on the scale of 1 to 10? How far are they in the trachoma elimination?
Nigeria is doing tremendously well, and they are working really very, very hard to make sure that just as their cousin Ghana has eliminated trachoma, they would do that. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'll put Nigeria at about 6.5, getting into 7, and they are almost getting there. They need every kind of support that we can give them to push the very last bit out. Nigeria is a huge country. They also have the burden of trachoma that is, quite huge, but they have the resource, they have the personnel, they have the political will, they have everything that it takes. All they need is somebody to provide them with additional resource of some funding that will push them to sit on the motorcycle or drive in their vehicles or buy some water or something to drink to push them on to do the work and ensure that everybody who needs to be reached with some treatment gets that treatment, and then trachoma will be out of Nigeria. I believe strongly.
if they're already on the right path, and you're, like you say, all those obstacles have been moved, like the political will and the community understanding. Once you've battled those areas, it really is such a through line to be able to know that you can see the end. You can see it's possible. I read a really interesting case study about the woman Zawera. She's from Nigeria, and I think she had the trachoma, the surgery, and some of her quotes are about the fact that she just couldn't stop dancing, the joy for her to actually see her husband's eyes again facing her. I mean, I'm a storyteller, I work in acting, and I'm forever trying to portray different people, but to hear somebody say that they got to see their husband's face again and it brought
Mm.
joy to them. There's such small pleasures that we take for granted. I'm looking at you right now, and I just take it for granted that I can do that. And I think when you hear stories about people like Zawera in Nigeria, and you're telling me that they have got the goodwill and the intentions for this to be eliminated, then hopefully maybe next time we speak, we can have some good news to talk about that.
Yeah. And what I love about our work in Sightsavers and in Nigeria as well is that we learn our lessons as we go on. We learn about what works and what does not work. And we make sure that we use what works. We use what works. If you want to enter a community and it's a community that would accept women to implement activities, we make sure that is what we do. So we've learned a lot of lessons along the line, and we use those lessons to improve upon what we do every time. So we're getting better at it. We are getting bigger at it. And all we need is that kind of support to eliminate trachoma from Nigeria, so that everybody else, not just the lady that we have just supported, but then a whole lot of other people need that kind of support. And you can imagine the joy in their hearts, and that shows in their faces when they are free from the pain
You're
and the
the
blindness.
coordinator. You must have a lot of members in your team that are all going and witnessing these moments as well. So it must all, it's a very, what you do, I don't know how you coordinate something as major as that, but your team must be very, like, they're very lucky to have you, but they must feel like they're really doing some great things out there when they go out for
Yeah, everybody's input into the work that we do is very, very valued, and everybody feels very special, and everybody feels that whatever they're doing is making a lot of impact in people's
let's
lives.
give a shout
I'm
out
very, very happy about that.
We'll give a final shout out to your team to say well done to Agatha's team.
Thank you so very much, Sunetra.
Really
Thank
nice
you.
speaking to you, Agatha, and thank you for telling us so much about trachoma, something we maybe didn't know that much about. So thank you.
Thank you.